What's up, everybody? This is Kerry. In this video, I'm going to give you my best bets for Week 10 of the NFL season. Now, looking back at the first 9 weeks of the first half of the season, overall we're 43-28 with a 60.56% win rate, and we've earned 11.91 units. Now, as I said in all my videos, I'm going to be transparent and show you my record from 1 week to the next. Week 9, we went 1-2, so that was a losing record there, but we only went under 500 by one game. We didn't have very many bets, and we only lost 1.15 units. So overall, we're doing great. So I feel really good about what we're doing here. I'm really enjoying making these videos. In particular, in this video for Week 10, I have additional trend I have not shown before. So let's do a quick Week 9 recap here. On the first trend that we follow, home teams before their bye week that cover the spread. We got the Eagles at -2.5. They actually went up to about -3, I think, before game time. We covered the spread there. We won that bet. In Week 2, underdogs coming off a 20-plus point loss to cover the spread. Now, picking the Rams at +3 without Matthew Stafford starting, that was bound to be risky. Anyways, we lost that one. In trend number 3, games with totals that fall in one of these 5 numbers. Now, the Eagles did not, and Cowboys went over that number. But look below there. As I'm going to mention from here on out, some of these lines move, obviously, during the week. And Dolphins and Chiefs, for example, was at 50.5. That went down to 50.0 before game time, and I placed that bet. So while that's not an official bet on my Week 9 record here, on my videos, it is something that I did, and I was successful there, and I placed that bet. So 2 of the games down there, which were not official bets, actually worked out. I'm putting these on there so you can actually watch these lines and see what happens, and maybe you'll find these lines on one of these 5 numbers. And if you place that bet, then you're following the trend. So our Week 10 best bets, let's get to it. The first 3 trends are always going to be the same here, the ones we've been following all along here. And the last one to the bottom there, this is a new one. Divisional road teams that lost as home favorites in Game 1 that then cover the spread in Game 2. Now that sounds like a lot of words there, but it's not too complicated. You know that each team plays their 3 divisional foes twice in a season. So think about this for a second. If they lost the first game and they were home favorites, they go to their opponent's home field and then they get revenge, right, by, well, covering the spread or maybe even winning outright. Now, I'd like to give a shout out to my long-term subscribers and supporters because I've had one person mention this before. It's like, maybe look at this, the first meeting versus the second meeting. So I thank you for that advice. And I also got this from Ralph Michaels from Wager Talk TV, the Bet On It show that I mentioned before. He mentioned this as the ultimate revenge game. And he says, you know, the word revenge is kind of ridiculous. Sometimes when teams get blown out, there's no revenge. They just weren't a good team and they face a much better team. But for divisional teams that are fairly matched up fairly well here, this can actually make a difference. So let's look at how this last trend actually plays out. 65.31% sounds really good. The 5 of 8, not as well, but let's see how this works out. First, I'm going to look at our divisional road teams that cover the spread overall in the last 8 seasons, 51.4%. This is not a trend I would follow. This is not good. This will not be profitable over the long term. However, when we go add an extra condition here that the divisional road team lost the first game as a home favorite and then covered the spread in Game 2, this is pretty strong. Those percentages are very high. The overall is extremely high, which I really like. The sample size, of course, is much lower here. 98 is about 12 games a season for the last 8 seasons. And even in those seasons, now this is where I'm going to say 5 of the 8 is not great. I would rather be 6 of 8 or 7 of 8. But look at the ones where it did not go over that 52.39% threshold. It got up to 50%. So even though it didn't make it, it got close. And overall, it's very strong. So I feel confident about this trend. I'm going to go ahead and bet it from here on out. First trend, home teams before the bye week to cover the spread. We don't have any home teams. Now, I made this blunder once before, so I'm going to mention this, where I bet the Tennessee Titans as a home team before the bye week. Well, they were in London. That was not a home game for the Tennessee Titans. Same thing with the Colts and Patriots. They play in Frankfurt, Germany in Week 10. These are not home teams. The Falcons and the Saints are also away. Trend number 2, this is one that's difficult to swallow sometimes. Underdogs to come off a 20-plus point loss to cover the spread the next week. We have the Cardinals at plus 2.5 against the Falcons. Now, the Giants at the Cowboys. This is one that's very hard to place. We all know that the Giants got blown out by the Cowboys 40-0. And, 16.5, that's a lot of points. And the Cowboys, coming off that loss to the Eagles, might be ready for a get-right game. So there's a lot of reasons why I would rather pick the Cowboys. But as I've been saying all season long, I'm going to stick to the trends. So what that means is I'm picking the Giants at plus 16.5. Now, again, this is not an official bet down here. The Jets at -1 against the Raiders. The Jets lost by more than 20 points against the Chargers. But what I'm going to say is this line might change just like those totals. It might go to plus 0.5 or plus 1. If it does and the Jets become underdogs, then they satisfy the criteria for this trend. And again, I'll place that bet. I'll look at Saturday, Sunday morning, see what happens. Trend number 3, we have 3 games in these 5 numbers here. The 49ers at Jaguars and the Commanders at the Seahawks. Now, in these 2 right here, I've only found that line in one place. That was in DraftKings according to this video. So those numbers may or may not be there. The rest of the sports books have them a little bit lower, which makes me feel even better about the 46.5. Now, the Broncos and the Bills are at 47 right now, and that has been pretty steady across all the sports books. And finally, one here to keep a watch on, the Texans at the Bengals at 48. If that falls down to 47.5 or maybe goes up to 49.5 before game time, then I'll place that bet. Now, here we go. Trend number 4, our new trend. Divisional road teams that lost as home favorites in the first game, then cover the spread in game 2. The Browns were 3 points favorites when they played the Ravens earlier in the season. Now they're going to Ravens as a divisional road underdog. And I like this number. I like the plus 6. I wish that was plus 6.5, at least one touchdown there. But in the first game, they did not have Deshaun Watson. I'm not saying that he's a big difference maker here, but he definitely could be an X factor in the Browns covering the spread. And both the Browns and the Ravens have really excellent defenses. So they're looking good. Both of these teams are looking really sharp. And I imagine this being a low-scoring game. Divisional games typically are low-scoring games. If it's a low-scoring game and the Browns are getting 6 points, I feel pretty good about that. So we'll see what happens. This is a new trend. I'm picking the Browns at plus 6. And finally, good luck. Have fun. Let's enjoy this ride. Let's go.